you've got these very main people, which is like totally fine, and this very main hot dog restaurant. But like then you've got people cooking the food, all that's fine, and and they're all, the script is the script, but these people are just incredible. I mean, these people you couldn't cast people
exactly,
like that, right? And then, but the best is like the best is that they tease the doctor before the doctor's line.
I saw that. I was like, is that the politician? I was
like, and they tease him not only like they show a close up of like his name, and they like, and he's fixing his coat for some reason, and he's in front of these like terrible crates or something. But you have no idea what that is, right? And then then you've got this guy that turns around like he was listening to the last woman, but he changes the subject. And then you had this guy that walks out of nowhere to say that what does he say, gamesman or something? Sportsman, right? It's like it looks like it's a complete different diner, and he's just like walking in out of nowhere. And then the guy that nothing is funnier to me though in this whole ad than the doctor.
Hi there, I'm Garret Brubaker, and this is the Creative Caucus. Today, I'm talking with Cayce McCabe, the co-founder of Adwell Group, who is one of the most creative minds working in the political field right now. We get into how he blends strategy and storytelling, why he believes political ads have to be entertaining to work, and the real process behind some of the most memorable spots of the last few cycles. From viral hits to lightning-fast turnarounds, this is a deep dive into what it takes to actually make political creative stand out. Let's get into it. All right, Cayce, thank you for joining the Creative Caucus. I am just going to read pretty much what's on your as your introduction, what's on your website. So, Cayce is your ad maker's favorite ad maker, an industry-leading triple threat strategist, writer, director who's created groundbreaking ads for governors, senators, Fortune 500 companies, mayors, and members of Congress. From law school and campaign management to jazz saxophone and chopping samples, Cayce weaves left and right brain into tapestries that stand out in an industry of boring, cookie-cutter political ads. Cayce's ads have won a Clio Award, 8 Emmy Awards, 3 Shorty Awards, 4 Addy Awards, and now with the Adwell Group, how many Pollys have you guys won?
That sounds terrible to say. I've lost count. That's not a brag. That's intentionally not a brag. It's just it's not something I keep track of.
It's it's amazing to see what you guys do. So now you are the founder partner of the Adwell Group. I mean, what do you call yourself? Agency, production company?
I'd say agency. Yeah.
I mean, you make some of the most creative political ads out there. It's my favorite thing watching what you create is it's unlike anything else that you really see. How did you get into politics?
Oh, okay. I'll try to tell the briefest version. I've always loved politics. I grew up raised by a single mom, and my mom worked multiple jobs and raised 3 kids, and still found time to volunteer for all kinds of things, helping Afghanistan refugees, helping volunteering at soup kitchens, but also she always volunteered for the Orlando Democratic Party. And so I just remember as a kid, just that being so core. And there were times I would do my homework at phone banks where my mom would just be making phone calls. And she had this pin she always wore, a button that said, when women vote, Democrats win. And she got me this saxophone pin that had Bill Clinton's logo on it because I played the saxophone and Bill Clinton played the saxophone. So, it's kind of been something that's important to me always. That said, I also went to law school. I also was pushed really strongly by my mom to go into some field where I could make a lot of money and not have to work multiple jobs like she did. And so it kind of was in leaving law school and ending up in Boston at a time where it was just impossible to get jobs as an attorney in the law field because it was 2008 that I just sort of got the bug again for politics, wanted to step away from the hunt for law, and the Martha Coakley Scott Brown race had just happened, and I followed it really closely. I was in Boston, and then there was a special election for Scott Brown's state Senate seat after he won that U.S. Senate seat. And I just got involved in the race, honestly. I just started volunteering. Then that turned into, just it's a job. And then all of a sudden it became a huge race. And we won the primary, which we weren't supposed to run. And then I ended up meeting everybody who's anybody in Massachusetts politics, because they all sort of swarmed to that race. And honestly, from that campaign on, I never sort of wanted for a political campaign job. I think that it was helpful that I was a 28-year-old with a law degree, and everyone else on the campaign was like 21, 20. And so, I got asked to manage a bunch of campaigns from there, and I managed campaigns for 4 years, but it was a time where there was just like this cascade of special elections in Massachusetts. So I did like 2 campaigns a year. I GC'd at times. And then hired Mark Putnam to do my TV ads in 2013 for a mayor's race in Boston. Mike Ross was the name of the candidate. And, always been a fan of Mark's work. And after the race was over, we didn't win. And after the race was over, Mark called me and said, I have a crazy proposition. Do you want to come work for me? But I need you to move to DC in the next 2 weeks, which was just blew me away. I already had a roster of clients that I was going to need to find other people to take care of for me. I had, I was in a relationship in Boston. I had friends. I had an apartment. It was a lot to suddenly say, I'm moving to DC in 2 weeks. But a lot of really smart people were like, this is your chance. You just got to go do it. So, and that's how I got into paid media.
So where did the creative director side of you come in? And were you a kind of kid that made home videos, or because I feel like politics and creative people don't there's a very niche subset of that. Most people would rather go make Hollywood movies and commercials and stuff.
Yeah, it's really, really funny, because I think 2 things. One is that most people in the industry assume that I went to film school, or that I'm just a creative guy. And I think that, that's one piece. Second of all, when Mark hired me, he knew me as a strategist. He knew me as a campaign manager, and even to the extent that when I would manage a campaign, I was all in on just my job. Right. So even on our shoots, I wasn't all up in his business, asking him why things were a certain way. I'm also that kind of, I like to hire people who are really good at what they do and not get in their way. Right. So he just assumed I was a strategist. He hired me because he wanted me as a strategist. And the truth is, I grew up in the arts. My mom was in the theater. My dad was in the theater. My dad writes, directs, produces shows for theme parks. I also was a kid that had really bad asthma as a kid. And so I didn't do sports, didn't play any sports. And so music, art, painting, all of that stuff was really core to me, and still always has been. I've always been really into movies. I've always been really into live music. I spent a brief year in Atlanta making hip hop beats. The creative is very central to who I am, but I also was it was sort of taught to me, and I don't mean this as a negative, but my mom and dad were both in a lot of ways failed actors, and they really wanted me to pursue something that I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck on eventually, and that's why they both said law would be a great idea, right? I mean, I had that kind of strategy brain as well. And so it's kind of where I got steered. But I've always been, the art side has always been really who I am at my core. And so, I fell into this kind of line of work where I literally I have a very strong strategy side of my brain, and I have a very strong creative side of my brain. And the fact that I get to do both every day is it just keeps my brain happy. I mean, my brain would like a break every now and then, but it keeps my brain happy.
Yeah, you found the perfect role where you get to use both sides of those talents. Kind of going over your creative style. How would you describe your creative process or your creative style, or kind of how you go about creating ads?
Yeah. Boy, that's a loaded question. All right, you
Because
said
like I said, it's a very, I like what I said at the intro, your ads are very unique and creative compared to other political ads. So I guess another way to phrase it is like, how do you go about making sure that your stuff stands out from the rest of the crowd?
Yeah. Well, so I will say the first thing, well, I'll talk about process after that, but I would say my style, like I believe very strongly that advertising, this isn't a crazy thing to say. Every Madison Avenue, every commercial advertising firm agency understands this. Advertising is entertainment. Like you are literally serving it to people in the middle of a break of their entertainment. Like you don't want it to suddenly be boring and just like dense and, bad, right? Like it's like people are watching something so that they're not thinking about work. They're not thinking about all this stuff. And so like a TV ad should be entertaining. It's like, we don't just get ads that say, here's the 4 reasons why you should drive a Ford truck. Yeah. It's like a cool Ford truck ad. It's a funny Geico ad, right? They fit that persuasion in, but it still has to be imminently watchable because like they understand the medium. And I think political ads just simply don't. Like, I just don't think that, and part of that is, and for better or worse, is that people that make TV ads for political campaigns don't come from advertising; they come from political campaigns, yeah. Right? And so, it's not like a commercial ad agency where you have people that know ads and know video and know copywriting and things like that. It's more just like people that know campaigns. And so, I just think personally, like starting from a standpoint of you do have those strategic things you have to do. You cannot make an ad that's cool for the sake of cool. Like we do so much, we meaning political campaigns, do so much research to really get to the crux of like what it is about this candidate that persuades undecided voters to vote for them. And that matters a ton. So like, my whole process is like learn and really get to the nut as best I can with my law school brain, right? Like really understand what exactly the message is that we need to get across. And I don't even just mean like the issue or like points. I mean, even the vibes, right? Like I will sort of, and sometimes we have that from data, like we have focus groups or something, but sometimes like I just know what I personally find to be the most compelling thing about someone. And so like, I sort of say like, okay, once I have that down, and that usually takes me the longest, is like, what is this exact thing that we need to convey? What are the feelings people need to have? What is the message? And then I go into the process of like, okay, what can I do that's watchable, that's funny, that's cool, that's creative, that's clever? Because that's the stuff people will remember. That's the stuff that people will notice when they're on their phone, but also watching the TV or when they're making dinner or when they're dealing with their kids running across the room. Like you want to grab their attention. And I just think like as a whole, so I think my style is just to do something interesting. And I also like to do something I haven't done before. That's another thing. It's like, I try to give every single client an ad that fits them like a glove because I think people love authenticity. And number 2, that they've never seen before, like that they wouldn't see on my reel. I think there are some ad makers that like, I'll see an ad on X and, a political ad, and I'll be able to tell who made that ad pretty quickly because like they just have sort of a certain style. And like, yeah. I like to think like I can do all kinds of things, right? I do not try to do the same thing over and over again. I do not try to make the ads look, and often they look wildly different. But I just think like something that people want to watch. That is the most important piece, is like that you want to watch it.
I mean, you just made a whole ad that I edited where you shot it all on a baby camera, which was amazing. And that's something I don't think anybody's ever seen before.
No, I don't think anybody ever has shot B-roll on the streets of New York on a baby monitor, and I would venture to say no one ever will again. So,
do you ever get a lot of pushback from candidates or campaigns as far as like, because the biggest hurdle I think in political ads is getting over the scaredness of like kind of taking a risk or doing something different? Do you get a lot of people that are like, well, I don't know, that seems kind of out of the box or whatever?
So, I like my overall theory is that if you get that first part that I talked about right, that it doesn't have to be so out of the box. Like, I do think there are those that think that a creative ad is a risky ad. And I just completely disagree. And by creative, I don't necessarily mean way outside of the box, right? Like we do ads that are just very beautiful and very moving and make you feel a human emotion that's different than just like, oh, that's so clever or that's so cool. Like it just hits you, and I just think those are all tools that help somebody remember an ad, right? If they have a human emotion to it, whether that's just like, hey, look at that, or, oh, what a clever line at the end, or, isn't that cute, or whatever that human emotion they have, then they're more likely to remember it. Because if it's just like, this a 5-part plan in your face and it's just B-roll shaking hands, you've seen it before. You've seen it 1,000 times.
And going back to the speed thing, like one thing you guys are great at is like you do whole fledged shoots. Like they're productions. Most of your ads. I mean, you get crew and equipment and stuff that you don't see in a lot of other ads. That you guys are able to do that in such a way where other people don't have that ability as far as the speed aspect of it.
Yeah, it's hard.
It is hard.
Yeah.
And it's a skill you learn over time. I mean, you've been doing this 12 years or plus, right?
Yeah.
And you get faster and faster. And yes, political turnarounds are a beast.
Yeah. It never gets old when I'll send a DP, a finished ad like 3 days after we shot the ad. And a lot of the DPs we work with don't do much political. And they're just like, oh my God, like how is this ad already done? We have to move that fast,
I think I saw in the recent email you guys sent out, it was 9 days from when you were hired to like a launch video got pushed out. It was your record.
That's not actually our record. We had a really, really crazy one where we got hired on a Friday. We shot on a Sunday and we launched the ad on a Tuesday. That's and it was a complicated ad. That's the craziest one we've ever done. I don't like to brag on that one because I don't ever want to do that again. It involved me literally getting hired, getting on a plane, sitting in the living room of the candidate while we wrote the script. Like it was intense. Yeah. So
do you want to say who that one was for?
That's for Peter Dixon. It was the AI ad for Peter Dixon last cycle. The announcement ad.
Okay. All right. So you've worked with tons and tons of candidates over the years. Do you have a favorite that you've?
I don't have a favorite. I've had the I don't want to say luxury. I've been lucky to work with just like some really great candidates, and also to work with some candidates like for a long time along the way.
Yeah.
And so those become really important to me because, for instance, like Senator Andy Kim, I worked with when he was not even a congressman, and then he won for Congress, and then we won a really crazy hard reelect where Trump won his district, and now he's in the U.S. Senate, and that's just like that's incredible to sort of be a part of, and to sort of be able to say, well, I remember when we first started, and you weren't even in Congress. And same thing with Pat Ryan. Pat Ryan is a guy who I worked with in 2018. We didn't win, but then I drove up to Ulster County to shoot some Facebook ads for his Ulster County executive race on my cell phone because, I was invested. And so, to sort of work with somebody for a really long time is really a neat thing. It's hard for me not to say MJ Hegar just because Doors is really the video that sort of put me on the map, and it won the Clio and all of those things. And she and I got a chance to work together for 2 really difficult elections. But, we really just, I think every ad I made with her was something I am just truly proud of. And in part because her and I were just a really good team and we really collaborated well. Those are a couple.
So, you brought it up. So we'll move into, talking about some of these ads. And Doors was 2018. It was probably one of the, if not the biggest ad, or most viral ad of the cycle. And it was the launch video, correct? Kind of for her.
Yeah. So she had already been in the race and she had already won the primary. But it was sort of a launch to try to make the race a thing. Like that was always the plan, was that we knew she had this great story, but like we just sort of felt like if we did the launch video really early on, we'd lose steam. And like we had kind of one chance to make the whole country wake up and think this could be a race. And so we wanted to do it after the primary, which was, most campaigns don't do that. They do these things for launch. And it was definitely a different strategy to do it like not during launch, but it really paid off.
So take us behind the scenes of that ad. Like how, I mean, obviously the shots of it, you have helicopter shots, you have, some visual effects transitions. I mean, from concept, like how'd the concept of it come about?
So first things first, I watched a lot of YouTube videos of her. She did like a TED talk. She's done a lot of stuff. And there's this video that, and I don't even remember the nonprofit that made it, but there's a video that was very highly produced that tells her whole story, same story basically. And it's narrated by Diane Lane. And it's like genuinely what everyone would do with her bio video. It's even done well, right? But it's like the straightforward, heroic sort of military bio video you've seen before, but like, with even better story because her story is even better, right? And so like from the jump, I was just like, it can't be this. Like it can't be something, number one, that's already been done for her, but that's been done by a lot of candidates. That's sort of the expected thing. And it's also what, every single firm that she could have hired would have done with her bio video, right? So from the jump, it was like, just needs to be very different. And I was, Kevin had met with her and told me this story about how she went to get diapers for the baby. And he went out in the garage with her and she had the helicopter door from her crashed helicopter. And that was just like, wow, you have the door. I was in watching all of these videos of her on YouTube. I noticed that there was all these things, this sort of repetition of this word door, how she knocked on all these doors and got doors slammed in her face. She tells the story about her mom being thrown through a plate glass door. So kind of just like, I kind of like just grabbed onto this idea of doors and sort of moving through doors being closed, that sort of thing. And that led me into like, I mean, you can kind of date me a little bit here. Well, not date me, but date the ad. I mean, that led me to just thinking like, well, I loved how like Birdman was like at least edited to feel like it was one take, right? Yeah. So obviously like they made it actually look like one take. Like our visual transitions are pretty simple and they're not like, it's clear it's not one take, but to make it feel all connected, to make it feel like we, the viewer, are moving the whole time. And I did that and I wrote the script and I honestly was like, this is pretty good. And I sat and it was like, I think we were almost late for the due date to send it to the campaign. And I just was like, it's not good enough. I was like, it's pretty good, but it's not good enough. And I sat like all day trying to think of a way to make it better and I couldn't. And, I was just like, I got to take a break. So I grabbed my now wife and we went to see Deadpool. And I left that movie and I was like, what if she broke the fourth wall every now and then? Because she has this like great attitude to her, like this just like, you know what, fuck this. And I don't know if I'm supposed to curse.
No, you're good. You're fine.
And so I kind of reworked it and number one, it really helped with like the length of it because every once in a while it would feel like it's coming to a close and then she would like jump it off again and like, just kick even harder. And once I added that in, that was when I was like, all right, this is something interesting, right? And so, everybody, it's funny in the coverage, a lot of people want to compare it to Scorsese, which was never in my brain. And I always told them, well, no, I was thinking more Birdman, but I don't know that I've ever said in any print interviews that in reality, like Deadpool was the movie that gave me the best.
There's a mix of Birdman and Deadpool.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And we shot the thing, pretty low budget, honestly. And we cut it, and as we were cutting it, we knew it was really good, and I mean, it was like nothing I'd ever seen though. The day we released it, I mean, just the celebrities that were tweeting it, and celebrities tweeting at me, and like it was really something else.
So, did you shoot this did you get a helicopter?
No. So that's actually, that's a stock shot that I just matched the camera to. because again, we didn't have a huge budget.
I was going to say, you said low budget. So I'm like, how'd they get a helicopter?
Yeah, I found that stock shot. I liked it. We messed with it in color correct, obviously, but like, the move down and then up off of the grass, we just sort of planned that in.
So as an editor, who edited this one?
Carlos Robles.
Was it Carlos? Okay,
yeah.
Sweet. Yeah.
He won an Emmy for editing, by the way.
Nice. So what do you think resonated with people? Why it got so popular?
So I think, one of the things that we, I don't know the right way to say this. I don't want to say lucked into, because honestly, it's not luck. It's really a terrible thing. But, there was the day that it came out, it was like the day after or the day before the kids in cages stories, with the kids at the border being kept in cages and that picture of the little girl crying. It just felt like it was an exceptionally sad moment. And I think the fact that we had this very heroic, very sort of positive message that also had a little bit of, and we're going to go kick these people's ass, like just really resonated. It was like this like timeline cleanser. And so like the fact that, you're scrolling through Facebook or you're scrolling through at the time Twitter and you're seeing all this just stuff that makes you depressed. It was like, this was something that was like actually really interesting. And I think that was a big piece. And I think the other thing too is that like, we got people that really, number one, people watched the whole thing and people shared it but like sent it via email and stuff. Like people
it's like 3.5 minutes, which is long for a launch video.
And the other thing is like, it was not, you couldn't embed video into Twitter back then. So it was just a YouTube link, right? So it's like, if you clicked it, went to this site and watched it, right? It wasn't like nowadays where, and I'm guilty of it too, but like, you get your total view count off of Twitter, but it's auto plays and it's like plays that happen while people scroll past it. And so like, I think too, the fact that like these views were real views and people were really watching it makes the sort of, the 5 million views different than an ad. And I'm not even saying that many ads get 5 million views anymore, but like it just made it different. Like it meant people were watching it and they were sharing it with their friends and their mom and their aunt. And like, I just think that's how it really went viral in a way that you don't see that same sort of virality anymore. I don't know. So
then what was special when you guys came back for round 2 and you did her reintroduction ad?
That was miserable, to be clear, because like, imagine making an ad that's like the most successful launch video ever, and then have somebody be like, "Okay, we need to do that again." It was a fun ad because we were doing it again, but it was like the pressure was miserable, and like I never thought it would go viral because like just lightning can't really strike twice. But it still was a great video that we had a lot of fun making. And like, I threw sort of everything into it. I threw like, we had everything that might make something go viral, right? We had celebrities, we had like a false ending and then like talking shit. And then we had, a bunch of visual effects that were really cool. And she told a really cool story and she invoked Beto. And like, I don't know. I thought it was like a really cool, wild video that like, meets people where they are who might be the type of people that would donate, right? Which are like people that knew her or knew that she was the viral woman and, see her keeping at it, So that felt like the biggest video that we had done at the time.
Do you have a bigger budget for that one than the first one?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. That's usually how it goes the second time around.
Yeah.
And then that was also the cycle that you did the carpool ad, which you sent as well.
I love the carpool ads. One of my favorite ads. I had the idea like way before we were ready to shoot it. I had this idea of her taking the kids to school in the helicopter. And it's funny. My favorite thing about the ad is that everyone, everyone was like, I can't believe you got a helicopter to come to your neighborhood. And I don't have it in here. It's in a box somewhere, but it was literally a toy. It was literally a model toy.
Just a prop.
And a green screen. And Carlos like really did some nice post work, but like everyone thought it was a real helicopter. And it's like, no, we can't even fly a helicopter into a neighborhood in Round Rock, right? Like, So I thought that was like, it just, I mean, number one, like I had been at her house so many times that I knew her kids were just like insane in the mornings. So like it let me lean into that piece. But it was really funny to shoot something with just literally a dumb little model and have it look that real by the end.
And just a play of her husband waving in the yard.
Exactly. Yeah. We shot that. We shot the reverse shot is from a drone just so it looks like it's, raising up and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. See, simple and effective. And everybody thinks that she took her kids to school in a helicopter.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. So, okay. So then you sent some stuff about the Wendy Davis's campaign.
Yeah.
And you just said the whole entire campaign. So what about her campaign did you enjoy working on?
We did just really, really good ads on that campaign. And that is a testament to her as a candidate. And she very much has that same sort of style of leadership that I like to think I have, which is like you hire people that are really good and then you like let those people do their job. And that's not to say like, I mean, she had obviously a ton of input, but she really trusted the vision. And we worked really, really well together. And so that was a heartbreaker that we didn't win. I mean, it was a matter of just, I think 2020 was the first time we as Democrats got to see that like when Trump is on the ballot, like it's a problem for us in a lot of these places. Like he is pulling out voters that we do not think of as voters, and people from rural, like the turnout was just huge in areas that it's usually pretty low. But that was just I think she's an incredible candidate, and we got to do some really neat work, and we got to actually be like, you do creative that was really creative every time, and even an ad that's like was kind of simple with, it was also during COVID, right? So like we shot all of that stuff during COVID. COVID was wild because like, everybody wasn't doing shoots, and I remember we did a couple remote shoots, and like I got on the phone with Mark, and we were just like, our thing that makes our candidates better and our firm better is we just have better ads, and like we're not going to be able to do that if we can't shoot. So we just sort of decided we're going to go shoot, and we kind of lived on the road that year. And so luckily I had a lot of work in Texas, so just kind of stayed out in Texas a bunch of the time. But we had to do funky things like have masks in B-roll shots, but also, we did that Zoom ad that I think you edited.
I did. Yes.
Yeah. And I just loved that because everybody's like, wait, how did you do that thing where everybody's
right at the end where everybody's passing the things?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good example too of like, it's an ad that just looks like something fairly, I mean, Zoom isn't traditional, but like somewhat straightforward. It also met people where they were. That's how people were seeing things. Right. But then there's like something just clever at the end, and, it just makes you remember, so. That was just a great campaign.
I will say I loved how the ad turned out, but I hated editing it. It was a bitch. Just like the green screen. I don't remember. It's been 5 years. I don't remember exactly, but I just know like the green screen, I had to mask out the hands and the arm. That was a pain in the butt. Okay. Moving on. Okay. Next ad you sent was the More Sense Pat Ryan ad. I found it deep on his Twitter. So this is the one where he talks about like school shooting and guns and stuff, correct?
Yeah.
So what stood out to you about that one?
It was just really compelling. I mean, it was a visual that like, when I came up with it, I figured it was going to be really compelling. It was really interesting because that was the 2018 race that Pat didn't win. But he was, our poll, we were kind of flabbergasted by how far down he was before we had gone up on any paid media. And, we put basically just this ad up, and we got within a couple points, and so like it made a big difference. A lot of people covered it, CNN covered it, but it's just like it's a good example of like sometimes it just hits you in a different place. It's not a smile, it's just like a damn, and the other thing that is, I will just say like extremely disappointing is that we can use this ad every cycle for Pat. And that's really kind of sad. But when he ran again and won, in 2022, we did run this ad because it tested really, really well. And then, we didn't need to, I don't even think we considered using it in 2024. But like the truth is like, I'm sure that ad would test well any cycle, and it's kind of evergreen, and that's really, really sad.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so moving into Adwell Group stuff now that you guys have done. I guess I'll start with a basic question. You started Adwell. What was it like, starting your own agency?
It was both very exciting and very scary. And both at extremes and both at the same exact time. So it's a really weird feeling to be like, this is so frightening. I don't know, Kevin and I didn't take a salary for 2 years. I put most of my savings into paying staff for the first year. But I knew it would work. It's weird. It's I really did feel very confident that everything was going to work out. But that still doesn't mean you feel comfortable and in the moment, right? And sort of knowing what our cash on hand was as a business, and when we would need to figure out where we're getting more money from, or when we need to get a client to actually spend on TV. I think that's one of the hardest parts about it's not, works out. But one of the tricky things, I'll say that, one of the tricky things about, paid media is that we work on commission, not on retainers, right? So, while a lot of clients that have been my clients for a long time came with me to Adwell, it doesn't mean they had elections anytime soon. It doesn't mean they're spending on TV anytime soon, right? So it's not like, you just have to sort of figure out how you get to the end of the cycle when TV starts to happen. And that's kind of what made it really, really so scary. But, on the side of having your own firm and deciding what you want that to look like, and having people who, not just that you're, if you're at another firm or you're somewhere else, you've had people maybe that are, junior to you, but having people who are sort of your employees and that you're excited about, and that you want to feel excited about the fact that they work for this firm, and it's a really cool feeling. And I honestly think the people are my favorite part, for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, you were right. It did work. When did you, what was it, 22, 23?
It was, it would have been right after. So it would have been January 23.
Yeah. So you're, going on 3 years now, and you've got more employees. You have a whole big staff, and you guys are just chugging right along.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's great. The day that Kevin said that we were, officially a profitable company was just I opened a nice bottle of wine that night. Seriously though, it just was you sort of put faith, you invest in yourself, and you invest in people, and you invest in this thing that you feel really confident in, but it still feels really, really incredible and rewarding to know that it worked, and to know that, we're still going, and that we still have great employees, and we've increased our number of employees, and that they all love being here. And I just I don't know, that's my favorite part.
One of the first Adwell ad that you sent that I want to go over was the Dunn, Harry Dunn, This Day, which I think is one of my favorite ads. I loved how that turned out, super cinematic. Where'd you guys shoot that at?
We shot that at a Mason's Hall in Baltimore.
And so did you you bring in a bunch of extras, a bunch of props, and just go through the takes?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's the same sort of thing as the MJ Hegar thing. I actually approached this thinking every single person every single firm, what's expected is to just show that footage of January 6th that we've all seen a million times, and that felt a bit like it's overdone. And so, I was just I want to do something more cinematic. I want to do something more. I also just felt very strongly about it being in slow motion, because that, number one, it makes it more cinematic, but it also there's something haunting about doing something in a beautiful way that's also really sits wrong with you. And so there's just there's this, I don't know, the gracefulness of it all almost, and yet it being just destructive in this really, terrible day for our country. I love mixing things that don't feel that they're supposed to go together. Right. So something that feels like it's shot beautifully and is in slow motion, but is actually like really violent and terrible. Like sometimes they pair together and they create something kind of magic, and you're kind of like, oh, that's really interesting, right? And so I think, so we got all these extras. We got a ton of props, a ton of stuff. That was a really, really hard shoot for a couple reasons. Number one, I didn't have an AD, so I was cueing everybody. It was so loud in that hallway. I literally couldn't even muster anything that sounded like a voice the next day. And then the other thing that was just like extraordinarily hard was that, in order to have him talking to camera and everybody else in slow motion, we had to double time his audio. And that generally speaking, like this is one of those things that like, works. It's Spike Jonze has done it a million times, but like, you record his audio ahead of time, you speed it up ×2, and then you shoot everything in 48 frames. And then when you put it into 24 and play it in 24, he will be saying it in regular speed. Problem is that like, number one, it is really hard to listen to yourself talk in a chipmunk voice and mouth it correctly. The second is that on some of those shots, it was hard to see on the monitor what his mouth was doing at the time. And so like you would say sort of like, look like you had that one, right, Harry? And he'd be like, yeah, I did. And then after the fact, when we did the ADR, to actually fit the words in his mouth, there's a couple times where we're sitting in the ADR studio and he's just laughing and he's like, I'm not saying the words at all there. I don't know what he's like. I was just literally moving my lips. And we're like, well, now we're going to have to try to fit the actual script into your lips. So that was definitely very challenging. It's a lot easier when it's in a music video, especially when people are singing, because like singing is just singing. It's not actually talking. So it was really difficult, but I thought it came out really, really good.
Oh yeah. Nobody that any non-editor won't be able to tell. So I was going to ask about that, because that definitely seems like the biggest hurdle in making something like that.
We were in the ADR room for a while trying to get it all to fit. Yeah.
And that's where the bigger timelines of non-political things could help, because then you could do the takes over 3-4 days or whatever to make sure it's perfect.
Exactly. So the really funny story on that, by the way, is that we set the fire alarm off in this huge, huge Mason's Lodge with the hazer, and it was on a weekend, so they were shut down. So there was nobody there that worked there, and the fire department and everything comes. And I mean, we were in huge trouble. And they basically are like, you can't run the hazer again. And we're like, oh, we need to run the hazer again. So like we did the whole like taping the cups up on all of the smoke monitors and everything. And like we'd use a lot of canned haze after the fact, because like we just could do it right in front of the lens and get a little more, but it really needed it. But the other thing is that when the fire alarm came on, they had these strobes in there, like for the fire alarm. And when I looked at the DP and I was like, first of all, everyone else was panicking. I'm like, that looks really cool. So we actually put a bunch of strobes in the hallway after that. So yeah,
there's a little bit of inspiration right there. That's great. So the next one you said, I guess going in chronological order, is I'm going to go over the Believe spot from Andy Kim. And you said this is Soprano spot. I've never watched Sopranos, so I watched it. And was that the vibe of like
it's like a full homage to the opening of Sopranos, which like, I had a couple ideas for Andy's spot, and and I actually had the campaign working on one idea that I was like, it's fine. But then I thought of this idea in the shower one day, and I was like, oh, this is actually perfect, because like, number one, he's running against the system. And he's running against like all of the New Jersey insiders. And so like, that's just such a good metaphor for like, hey, New Jersey has this reputation, right? This idea that it's like the mob. And we actually shot it, like all that stuff looks really similar. We shot coming out of the tunnel, and we shot a bunch of the same locations. But just had him talking about sort of what's corrupt in New Jersey, and also adding in his kids, because his kids, every ad I do, I use Andy's kids. They're like the most adorable kids. And the dinosaur suit is just kind of totally random, but like there's this social media video of Andy's kid playing the piano wearing a dinosaur suit, and Andy's thing just said something like, some days your child wants to dress up like a dinosaur. So I was like, oh, let's have him wear the dinosaur suit.
So Jasmine Crockett. So you guys have done stuff for her.
Yes.
I think the most viral one that you have done is that it's called the New Star.
Yes. Yeah. It's also the most controversial ad that we've done, which is more fun than I expected it to
Really?
be. A controversial ad, yeah, or video.
What was controversial about it?
I think a lot of people want announcement videos to be bio videos. They want announcement videos to be messaging. But the most interesting thing that we learned after we did Doors was that was the first ad that I had like family members sending me, not knowing it was mine, right? Like, this was like everywhere. And we did focus groups, thanks to the fact that we raised like $3 million in a week on that video. We did focus groups and, listening to actual voters in the district. And I think we did talks to like 30 people. And not a single one had seen the ad or heard of the ad. And I think that was just like a nice touch point to just remember that, like, when we do these launch videos, like, yeah, the hope is that some people that are going to vote see it. But like in reality, there is this like cream of the crop sort of like people who just live and breathe politics, and they watch MSNBC 24 hours a day. And my dad is one of them, right? But they just like, they love to consume this political stuff. They want to be part of the blue wave, part of the resistance, these sorts of things. And then there are just like a lot of people who vote, honestly, even in primaries, but like they are too busy to like mess around with politics until it's kind of election time. And maybe they do some research or maybe they see some ads, but like they vote. They're just not, it's not part of their life, right? And that is most voters. That is like 80, 90% of voters. And so, these videos, these launch videos are really for the sort of online, folks who donate money, or sign up to volunteer.
The base.
The base. And it's like resist libs. And, and so, when you have a candidate who is completely known by that audience, there isn't really a necessity to like explain who you are, where you came from, and what your message for the campaign is. Like you are going to need to do that. And by the way, the same day she launched this video, she did a rally that was covered by local TV news, which, by the way, is where regular people will see things. And she laid out all the reasons she's running and everything. But like the thought here was like, she had already had a pretty solid, like sort of text and email fundraising program. And I was talking to those guys and they said the Trump stuff always performs the best, like the stuff where Trump calls her out, right? And so I just thought like doing something that is just crazy simple, just like incredibly simple, but is like a really strong metaphor, would be something everyone will be talking about. And like, if anyone in politics other than, on the other side of the aisle, if anyone in politics subscribes to the sort of like, news is news. And like, you want to be in the news. You want to be who people are talking about. Like granted, it's because she's real. She's super authentic. But like, I just think like if you want people talking about the fact that you launched, that's it. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And so that's what we did. And it was controversial because a lot of people were like, she has no message. She's not talking, this race is just about her. And like, none of that is the case. Like I said, we literally announced that day at a big rally and gave a whole speech about why she's running. Like this was to drive the internet crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a gift, frankly. Like, it's up to, I think it was 5.5 million on TikTok. She never posted on Instagram, but on X, I think it's over 5 million. Like it is an insane number of views and everyone was talking about it and everyone either hated it or loved it. And I'm used to sort of people either not seeing a video because like these things don't really go viral anymore, or like people saying it's great, but like it was definitely more fun than I expected to have so many people hating.
To have some critics.
Yeah. I don't know, because like it still means everybody's talking about it, and but I really felt like there was something compelling about a single shot where there is actually a 3-act story here, and it is a really great metaphor to what a lot of Black women in politics go through, and having to be put down and having to face criticism and having to stand strong and tall and stand in your power and not let it phase you. And then at some point, you do turn and face it, right? And you fight back. And at some point she turns in the ad and looks directly at him and she, to show she's not afraid. At first it's like, this doesn't bother me. Then it's like, okay, you've got my attention, but I'm still not scared. And it's only at the very end that she experiences joy, right? Because she has to deal with all this shit first. And so I actually find that it's a extraordinarily compelling concept that really highlights a lot of like what she has gone through and what continues to happen on this campaign of just facing an incredible, inordinate amount of criticism that white men don't face. And so, I like the way we did it. I like that we didn't use music. We shot it on 16 millimeter. I brought in like a DP with mostly a fashion background just to like really make her look like this guy does not faze her. She is fierce. She is powerful. And like I said, the people that needed to see this and get excited and donate, they loved it. They fucking loved it. So,
Yeah. And you're able to convey all those messages in, 45 seconds with subtle, pieces of the video. I think I love one take things, anything like that. And so, I thought this was awesome. And anybody who says who criticizes like, oh, she has no platform, those aren't the people that are going to vote for her anyway. Right.
Of course. Right.
Yeah. So the most recent one that you guys did was Menefee.
Yeah.
And you guys, and he just won. Is that correct?
He just won. He was sworn in on Monday. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you have two. You have like the one that's like kind of the 90s vibe. Was that like a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air type of,
well, one of them is it's technically Martin. Technically, it's the opening to Martin.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I was kind of going for that entire vibe.
Yeah.
I was kind of going for, there's something about, this district is mostly Black. There's obviously other folks, white folks, Latinos. There's something about the 90s. We knew what the message was. It's like these, these fights that he's taken against Trump and Abbott and Paxton and won, but also his family, and also like that he's young and interesting and he's got this great family and grounded and all of these things. And there's something that I just go to like this. In the 90s, there were all these Black sitcoms that just like were really celebratory of like Black excellence and Black families. And we all grew up watching them. And that's the other thing, right? Is like, it wasn't like this was, a different network. Like these were huge hit things. And we watch Family Matters every Friday on TGIF at my house. Right. Like, but like, these were like, I feel like these days a lot more like Black roles are like, cop or, something. It's just like, they used to just be this like great family sitcoms.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, two parent income. And like, I just thought that there was this really celebratory feeling to 90s Black sitcoms. And so like, I had thought about doing it like as a Family Matters opener, but number one, Doechii just did a video that did that. And number two, we had almost no budget to make this, right? And so, and that would have required a set build. There's just no way to do it without a set build. And so I noticed the Martin one because it had the plain color background. And I was like, look, I can do this in a studio on a green screen. One day, like lock camera. I mean, we had a couple different camera spots, but lock camera, and just have people come in and out all day and we knock them out and it's MOS and we were able to do it, really, really cheap. And so, and it's also like colorful and fun and you notice it like hell on a TV screen. And I don't know, it's just, there's something that feels really nice and celebratory about it. And then the other one is like an MTV Cribs thing.
Yeah.
Which is a little more 2000s. And that one was more just like in getting to know him, like, he's very good at sort of hosting. He's very good at sort of like being the master of ceremonies. And I felt like I wanted him to sort of guide us through showing us why he was running. And that made me think of Cribs, obviously. And it was the same sort of thing where like we talk about these issues where he's beaten Trump or Paxton, but like we're also just showing like family and like, just this like cool guy who's like energetic, super smart, super accomplished. has this great looking young family. And it's just like, it makes you feel good. And I also think, like vibes matter a lot in this industry. And I think people
vote on vibes. That's my mantra.
And like, I think a lot of people overlook that. I think one of the problems with such dense ads, with two reasons I would blame for it. One is just that like, we don't have that many creatives working in the industry. Number two, I would say we over test ads. We do ad testing too much. And I don't like, I've seen ad tests be really helpful. So it's not that I'm against the idea of ad tests. It's just that like, unquestionably, if you put 6 ads in front of a person who is paying full attention, watching them on their laptop as part of the study, they're going to say the one that had the most information is their favorite. The one that had the most clear policy information is the one that was the best. And like that ad is not going to perform best in a commercial break. It just is not. Like when people are in the middle of their busy lives, it's just, it's cold. It doesn't, you don't connect with it that well. It doesn't grab your attention. It fades into the background. And like, I just think, there isn't really a great way to test ads as they will actually run. Yeah. Still, there isn't, right? And, like I said, I've done things where it's like we've tested one version that had, this line and one version that had a different line. And like, that's really helpful to know, like actually the line that, works best is this line. And but I think that inherently people are going to choose the denser, less interesting ad, in those scenarios, and then in a commercial break, that's not how it really works.
That's a great point. I don't like doing testing ads either. We talked about critics a second ago, and when I pulled up the MTV Cribs style one on YouTube, Randall C6232 left a comment that said, "Don't know this guy, but this is the stupidest commercial I've ever seen." I got a good chuckle out of that one.
I love, my favorite thing is negative comments, like especially on, so like, X, formerly Twitter, is like, I mean, it's like 75% MAGA at this point, yeah. Right? So like some of the comments are just, some of them are like actually terrible and like abusive, but some of them crack me up, like just really crack me up. Both because they're off color and because it's just such a funny thing to say.
Okay, so the last one I want to go over, which you said was your favorite political ad. Why don't you walk me through this one? Bruce Poliquin. So I don't even know.
Yeah, this is Bruce Poliquin. I don't know if this ad has a name, but I think this was 2018. So this would have been his first campaign.
You could have told me this was 1980 and I would have believed you.
I know. And well, look, I will say this one thing, which is that I was taught a long time ago that I do believe this, right? That like production value, and you brought up the baby monitor ad, right? But production value is not a thing that makes an ad a good ad, mm-hmm. Right? Like an ad is a good ad because of a concept, because of the writing, or because of like, it's not a good ad just because it's done with pretty cameras, right? And so, I think the way it was put to me is like, there's nothing wrong with pedestrian if it's actually a good concept. And there was that guy. There was that Republican ad where like the guy's wife wanted him out of the house, and because he talks so much about being the insurance commissioner or something. It went viral like years ago. And it wasn't like shot gorgeously, but it's a great freaking concept. And that's why it went viral. So like, I will just say as a side, like the fact that this is clearly looks like it was shot in the 80s, like that's not why it's so hilarious, but it helps. But it's Bruce Poliquin's like reelect in 2018. He lost to Jared Golden for the first time. It's like, I don't feel like you could possibly make an ad this bad if you wanted to. And it's so bad that it's amazingly good, yeah. Right? Like, and I love stuff that's so bad that it becomes good. Like it feels, I mean, it is just so, there's so many things. Like, and I've watched it so many times, I've like broken down all the, like the doctor is the funniest.
Break it down for me. Yeah. Yes. Okay, the doctor.
Well, first, the opening line of the ad is "One thing's for certain." Just in general, opening an ad that way is insane, right? Like you're just basically saying like, well, we don't have to establish this. He's great for jobs, right? Like one thing's for certain. Let's just jump it off right off there, right? And then you've got these very Maine people, which is like totally fine, and this very Maine hot dog restaurant. But like then you've got people cooking the food, all that's fine, and then, and they're all, the script is the script, but these people are just incredible. I mean, these people, you couldn't cast people
exactly,
like that, right? And then, but the best is like the best is that they tease the doctor before the doctor's line.
I saw that. I was like, is that the politician? I was
like, and they tease him, not only like they show a close up of like his name, and they and he's fixing his coat for some reason, and he's in front of these like terrible crates or something. But you have no idea what that is, right? And then then you've got this guy that turns around like he was listening to the last woman, but he changes the subject. And then you had this guy that walks out of nowhere to say that what does he say, gamesman or something? Sportsman, right? It's like, it looks like it's a complete different diner, and he's just like walking in out of nowhere. And then the guy that, nothing is funnier to me though in this whole ad than the doctor, and the fact that he says, in healthcare, regardless of what they say, like, okay, we've inoculated against that negative. Just regardless of what they say, boom, you can't touch us now. And then the fact that they all scream "yeah" at the end is pretty great. So the funny thing is that he didn't run again in 20, but he ran again in 22, and we were doing House Majority PAC or DCCC, one or the other, the IE, and I wrote an ad that is a homage to this ad, but it's as a negative on Poliquin, and it was like, this ad would have gone nuts, and they just couldn't pull off, and not in a this isn't a disregard thing. It's just like, these IEs work really fast, and they were pulling a shoot together really fast, and they just couldn't get the people. Like, they couldn't get enough people in a diner to do it, and so we ended up doing just like a single person direct to camera, and we couldn't do it. But like, man, it would have been so good. It would have been possibly my favorite ad that I've ever made.
Save that in the back pocket for a
but it's just I love stuff that you couldn't decide to make something like that.
Yes, you couldn't intentionally make it that way.
Exactly. It's just so good.
I got one question from one of your teammates. What's the weirdest ad you've written?
Weirdest ad I've written. Boy, I know that there's some really weird ones. But I mean, the funny thing, so I know it's my brain doing this because we're just talking about Bruce Poliquin, but that same race, he, at one point, this was about the ACA, like voting out the ACA. They were trying to find him to interview him about why he voted against it, and he ran away from the TV cameras and hid in the bathroom. And I wrote this whole ad about people losing their hair. Or I think we were talking about Bruce Poliquin doing these things, and people were getting terrible indigestion the whole time. Like, they just started you could, it's like those diarrhea commercials where they're just like, all of a sudden they have this, and it was something about the concept was, that Bruce Poliquin makes you run to the restroom basically because he's so terrible. And then it's him running in the restroom and hiding. And the D Trip did not let us do that. But that was, I think I've done a couple poop joke ads that never
saw the light of day.
Yeah, which is too bad. And I'm just trying to think. Weird, weird is a funny one too. I mean, we've done some really cool weird stuff. Like we did a really great Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas ad in this Nevada ballot initiative that didn't test well in ad test, and so it never aired. But it was super trippy, and that one was pretty cool. I'm trying to think. It's got to be stuff though that I write that people are like, no.
Yeah, you don't get to make those ones.
Yeah.
So the one question I want to end, like everybody I talk to, is like what your dream ad is. But you can use your, like, if you had nobody could tell you no, but you could use the Bruce Poliquin attack ad as your dream ad. If that sounds like that's the one ad that you really wanted to make.
I really wanted to make that ad. I will say two other things. I mean, the first one is like, if you're an ad maker, and I feel like it's what everybody says, and like I don't like it's true still, right? Is like a Super Bowl ad, right?
Yes.
Like that's what everybody wants, is to make a Super Bowl ad. And like I don't disagree. That would be awesome. That said, the Bruce Poliquin ad for sure. And then in 2016, I was on the Clinton campaign, and I made this ad of Ronald Reagan talking about the preparedness that we need in our next president. And he was talking about George H.W. Bush at the convention. But everything he said was talking about I mean, he really made it sound like, if you didn't know better, he was talking about Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. And we cut this like big ad, I mean, super cinematic, like, you know, with Reagan's voice over it. And like, I mean, it was moving as hell. And we couldn't even get it into an ad test. It's just like, they didn't think it was believable. And, you know, I think in hindsight, not in hindsight, like it would have helped us win or anything like that. Like that, you know, there's so many things baked in. But I just mean, like, now knowing what we all know about Trump and how the party has shifted, you know, I think maybe the Reagan ad, like, I mean, I think maybe nowadays people would think Reagan probably would think that.
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
Like, so, you know, but that ad was awesome. And like, for a while I would show people the ad, like after the campaign, you know, and be like, we never could even get this in a test. And people would be like, holy shit, this ad is awesome. And like, you know, they have reason. I mean, again, like if they didn't think it was going to be believable, then I just would have liked to see it tested and see if that's the case or not.
Yeah.
But that ad was like one of the coolest ads I've made. And I spent a ton of time looking up Reagan speeches to find that. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is perfect. So, and I've done that a couple times. Like I did an ad for Hillary Scholten last year with Gerald Ford narrating, but he's actually, it's from like the 78 convention or 76 convention, 78, I think. Anyways, 76 maybe. But, you know, and it's just about like being bipartisan and all this stuff. And, you know, and we just have him speaking while we do shots of Rep. Scholten. And like, you know, she's in Grand Rapids. He's beloved in Grand Rapids. I mean, even Democrats love Gerald Ford in Grand Rapids. So like, it felt like a nice ad. And I don't think that people said, oh, this isn't believable. Cause it's like, yeah, it's not believable because Gerald Ford's been dead for a long time, right? Like, of course he's not talking about her, but like, listen to the like points he's making, and it like, you know, has a lot of value. So.
Yeah, back when, you know, integrity and that kind of stuff mattered.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. This is, you know, I thank you so much for being on. This is your opportunity. You know, you pitch the Adwell Group. If anybody listening to this is looking for an agency, what do you guys do well? Why should people hire you guys?
Yeah, honestly, I will say that I think and we think that we do the best ads in the business, but that's not why you should hire us. You should hire us because we are a lot of fun to work with. We have a great group of people, and you know, you will actually enjoy working with us. And I think that is a big piece. I've learned that over the years. I've learned that in now owning a company, that is a big piece that is overlooked sometimes. And you know, we're obviously very proud of the work we do too. And we just talked about a lot of the actual ads now, but like, you know, at the end of the day, I think we're the team that you want to work with and have a good time working with us. So
I can concur. I do love working with you guys as an editor. But okay, Cayce, I appreciate you for coming on, talking about this stuff, taking some time out of your day. I hope people listening have learned some stuff about some of these ads, and thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome, man. Really appreciate it.
Huge thanks to Cayce McCabe for pulling back the curtain on how great political creative actually gets made. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you subscribe to the Creative Caucus for more deep dives with strategists, editors, and directors shaping the work behind the scenes. And if you know someone who's a political creative who should be on the show, or you have a favorite ad you want me to go over and look at, send them my way. I'm Garret Brubaker. Until next time, keep the vibes up, because that's what people vote on.